Good morning and welcome to the third installment of the sixth annual New Jersey Environmental Health and Justice Summit Series, sponsored by the NIEHS funded Center for the Environmental and Environmental Exposure and Disease, or CEED, and the Rutgers Environmental and Occupational Health Sciences Institute, or EOSI. My name is Rob Lumbach and I direct community engagement for the center. I'm joined today by Kerry Butch, who coordinates our community engagement programs, and our panel of speakers, who Kerry will introduce in a moment. The theme of this year's summit series is indoor environments and health. In these summit programs, we bring together community organizations, community members, policymakers, representatives of government agencies, and scientists to address today's complex environmental health issues affecting communities in New Jersey. Today's program highlights our guests' work related to Smart Kids and Cool Seniors, a collaborative project between the Housing Authority of the City of Elizabeth, and Rutgers scientists. This innovative project and the work that led up to it exemplifies the kind of interdisciplinary, community-engaged research that the Center and EOC seek to promote. Before Kerry introduces the panelists, we'll start off with a 5-minute video that introduces the project, Smart Kids and Cool Seniors.
So this is a $1 million grant from the National Science Foundation. It's a collaborative effort between Rutgers University, the City of Elizabeth, the Housing Authority of the City of Elizabeth, Elizabeth Community Policing, and Groundwork Elizabeth, designed to study environmental issues, indoor inadequate ventilation, heat stress in the summertime for senior citizens, and there'll be some youth working side by side with the seniors in this project.
This grant will enable air quality within our community to be examined, and the impact of transportation, industrialization, and environmental changes will be documented. Supporting our Go Green initiatives, the collected data will assist in short and long-term planning events.
Our goals for this program are to give people a voice in their environment. Historically, there have been neighborhoods which during 1939 designated as less than desirable neighborhoods, and they became known as redlined areas. In 1964, they were deemed inappropriate and they're gone. However, the vestiges of what was done from 1939 to 1964 remains, and these neighborhoods are impacted with environmental concerns way above those of suburban and rural communities. What we do in the program, Smart Kids and Cool Seniors, is actually bond our youth in an intergenerational way with our seniors in these red line neighborhoods to talk about issues that are of great concern for everybody in regarding the environment. The environmental impacts in these communities are stronger and more severe than they are in other communities.
So this summer we started working with both kids and seniors to try to measure air quality in the City of Elizabeth. The kids learned how to use sensors, and they wore them in backpacks, carrying them around the city. And this allowed us to map where are the pollution hotspots. This was helpful for the seniors who have to go to the store or go to church or visit relatives to know which places to go and which places to avoid. The seniors, as they started to plan their days, to think about, well, where should I go in the morning and where should I go in the afternoon in order to avoid heat stress and air pollution?
I was in charge of the air quality, putting the flags in the bath. So also telling the people that live here what was the meaning of the color, because it was green, yellow, and red. I look at the app to get the information, because I have to, by that app, I have to go by the color of the flag. It's an arrow that let me know which color I need to put outside.
Definitivamente la calidad del aire en esta área no es la mejor. Como todos sabemos, estamos muy cerca de diversas factorías, un área donde hay mucho tránsito de camiones y también el aeropuerto está muy cerca de nosotros, afectando la calidad del aire no solo de los adultos mayores del área, sino de todas las familias.
I got an air quality monitor on my phone and right here. So right now it says 83 for the air quality. And it says the average score is moderate, 67. So I wanted to work with Jackie and other seniors about the air quality. Just making it clean for everybody.
We just need more environmental protection to help us breathe easy. We don't like to be dealing with all asthma. There's a lot of asthma down in the port. And this is one of the reasons why we have so much asthma here. So just to say, I would love to see anything that can help us raise more money, get more money, have more money to clean up this area much better than what it is.
Key is you need the community involved as well. You need community groups to be involved because these are the people whose lives are impacted the most. They've got to be heard.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching that. That was an amazing film. Now I just want to introduce some community folks that you saw in the film, at least some of them you saw in the film. Our first person that I'm gonna introduce you all together, and then you guys have a conversation. So right now it's Jonathan Phillips, the Executive Director of Groundwork Elizabeth, and we're very fortunate to have him on our Community Advisory Board for CEED. Also, Kathy Hart, she's the Deputy Executive Director of the Housing Authority of the City of Elizabeth, as well as Michael Buckley, who's the Director of Staff Operations at the Housing Authority of the City of Elizabeth. We figured we'd give you an opportunity to say what you guys want to say.
Hi, folks. I'm glad to be here to be talking about this very important topic, and that's very near and dear to the hearts of all the staff and residents that work and live within the Housing Authority. So the Housing Authority of Elizabeth has a rich history since 1938, since we were established, of providing affordable housing. But in doing that, we also focused on improving the quality of the lives of our residents through various initiatives and partnerships. And what I'm here today to talk about pretty much is to share the need for these partnerships, which has enlightened the Housing Authority, enlightened the staff and the residents to this type of programming, to be able to raise residents' awareness to different things that affect their lives within their community, and maybe give them some tools and resources where they can make decisions about their health and decisions about what and where they need to go for help. So one of our early relationships and partnerships we formed was with the YMCA. They started an initiative called Shaping Elizabeth, and Shaping Elizabeth was in part funded by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and New Jersey Health Initiatives, and that was to bring organizations together to get the residents of the City of Elizabeth fit and healthy. So from that programming, we started a mobile food market. That mobile food market, you may say, has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but it led us to future collaborations with Groundwork Elizabeth. That Groundwork Elizabeth organization has created for us, in light of the mobile market, where we were providing fresh fruits and vegetables to residents, not only public housing residents, but the community at large. Groundwork Elizabeth supported our initiative, so much so that they shared with us the opportunity to create garden spaces at each one of our facilities, as well as Maravlac Manor, which is our largest family site. We have 50 raised beds of gardens where families and seniors and individuals can raise their own fresh fruit and vegetables. It's been a tremendous asset, and the residents really enjoy having that. But again, laying the groundwork for these relationships to be started coming out of a coalition organization with many other partners. It was Rutgers, it was Groundwork Elizabeth, it was the City of Elizabeth, it was Trinitas Hospital, bringing all the major players to the table to bring programming to residents with this initiative of getting people fit and healthy. It really raised the Housing Authority's awareness to what was out there and what we needed to do as people who can affect change for residents. Again, through Shaping Elizabeth, we were led to another coalition through Jewish Family Services called Lifelong Elizabeth. That initiative was targeting, in particular, seniors and creating space for them to age in place and age in place healthily, to create improvements within their own environment, which would, where they would be able to live in place, but have a quality of life that they deserved. So with Rutgers, there were several studio classes that were created that studied the seniors where they lived, viewed mapping strategies of transportation, hospitals, access to services. And from these studies, it created a better understanding of what services the seniors need to better age in place. One of the pieces of these studio classes was studying the effects of heat stressors on air quality inside the apartments. We had classes where individual monitors were set up in people's apartments. The data was collected and then shared with the studio class and shared with people of the community, say, hey, this is what we discovered, this is what's going on, lessons learned, and what improvements the authority can do, what improvements you as the resident can do to make the air quality better, and maybe some strategies to avoid some habits that maybe make the air quality that much worse. So again, Groundwork, Rutgers, the Housing Authority, a very strong partnership that's created through these coalitions that all had the premise of getting people fit, healthy, increasing health equity for those that are in most need. Groundwork Elizabeth, just recently in the past year, we've created 2 microforests with Groundwork Elizabeth. Again, those microforests were planted on 2 of our senior housing properties. These microforests are important. They help absorb carbon, they manage stormwater, they provide wildlife habitat, and they mitigate urban noise. Once again, it was another strategy employed by Groundwork Elizabeth with the Housing Authority to improve the quality of lives for the people that live here. Rutgers also engaged with the Housing Authority in doing STEM classes for our kids. In the video, you heard folks talking about the EPA flag program. We did, funded in part from Valley Bank, we did summer camp programs for kids, where they learned about the EPA flag program, which is the air quality program. We also brought it to the seniors and had the seniors engaging in this programming. So yeah, the Housing Authority has done a lot of work because of these partnerships, because of these coalitions. And this progression where we got to with the National Science Foundation, and also with Groundwork Elizabeth, we also received a $500,000 grant through the EPA, again, with the setup of air quality monitors, having focus groups with residents, engaging with the residents, doing community outreach, trying to educate them better, and again, provide them with resources and tools that they can make better decisions with. I think I've covered enough. I may want to hand it over to Jonathan from Groundwork to kind of continue on this story, and I tried to give it to you as quickly as I could. Hopefully, if anybody has any questions, they can catch me at the end.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to try to share the screen. I hope it works. If it doesn't, I'll stop it, I promise. But part of my story has to do with the picture that I'm going to put up there. So hopefully you can see that picture right now. Tell me if you can, Dr. Rob. Give me the thumbs up. Okay, very good. Okay, so now that I did that, I can't see my screen. All right, so take a look at that picture. I'm gonna take it off in a second, but it's not about me, this picture. It's about where we are in Elizabeth. And I'm standing on top of a bridge here. This is the Goethals Bridge. It joins Staten Island, New York City with Elizabeth. You can see the Arthur Kill right there. A lot of ships go through here. There's an airport in the background. There's trains. There's major highways. I'm going to take the picture down right now and talk about what we've done with everybody else in this. Yikes. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I'd like to thank everybody, first of all, for coming to the webinar. And thank you to the entire Center for Environmental Exposures and Disease program and our friends at EOHSI for the hard work you all do throughout the entire year. A little bit about Groundwork Elizabeth. If you don't know about us, and Kathy just started to talk about it. Thank you, Kathy and Mike. They are incredible, incredible partners. And our mission is for Groundwork is dedicated to pursuing a future in which everyone's neighborhood environment is healthy, green, and resilient. And we're working simultaneously to undo the legacies of poverty and racial discrimination at the same time. We are about sustainability, we are about equity, and we are about environmental justice. And as we pursue these objectives, we're mindful of the need to especially include those who are customarily excluded from important dialogues, and these are often youth and seniors. We want everyone to become part of a comprehensive, diverse, equitable, and inclusive solution to improve conditions for everyone. And that's why we're part of this program. That is why we are here today in this seminar. So my profile picture is taken up the top of the Goethals Bridge at the intersection of New York and New Jersey. We are right next to the largest refinery on the East Coast. We are right next to a very large regional airport, Newark Liberty. We are right next to a seaport. We are right next to major rail lines, both freight lines who are using diesel engines and passenger lines, and of course, major and many roadways, highways. So the location on the bridge is a good representation of what our overarching outcomes are for the National Science Foundation grant. It's really bridging, sorry to get corny, but bridging the gap between environmental justice and equity. For this grant, our goal is to study air quality, and our location near the major roadways, the airport, port, leaves residents lacking in good quality air. And diesel particulates, 2.5 diesel particulates, those tiny little ones that get into your lungs, pose a special hazard. People, of course, suffer with lung diseases, asthma, heart disease, and cancers exacerbated by the airborne pollutants. We need to study and find solutions for these man-made effects. We all deserve to breathe clean air and not endure flooding and heat island effects. We need to raise up everyone to a level of environmental justice that's equitable and respectful. Again, Groundwork and the Housing Authority of the City of Elizabeth has worked together for about a decade, beginning with the Shaping Elizabeth program, maybe even before that, Kathy. There was a YMCA program before that as well. And it was all based on improving health outcomes. I think Kathy painted that picture really well. Some of this work that we did revolved around intergenerational activities with youth and seniors. Bill from the Housing Authority, Kathy and Mike and the entire HASTE staff are super valuable partners, and they're fully involved, as Kathy said, in improving the local environment and opportunities for those who live within HASTE, but in all parts of the city as well. And for Rutgers, we began air quality first with actually Carrie finding us, and then Dr. Rob and the EOHSI team about 6 or 7 years ago, when we started counting trucks that were spewing diesel fumes within our neighborhoods. From that beginning, we expanded into environmental justice work, into further air quality projects, beginning with a EPA environmental justice small grant on air quality. And now we're here today with Housing Authority and our good friends of at Rutgers, Getty, Jennifer, Clint, and other Rutgers departments. And we're, again, like I said, really happy to be involved in the National Science Foundation grant. So what are we actually doing at Groundwork? What's our job for the Smart Kids, Cool Seniors initiative? Well, first, I'd like to say we've always invested in our youth. It's a very important component about Groundwork Elizabeth. They are, after all, the next generation of community members and leaders, and we all need to work hard to make sure that these youth voices are heard. So we have 3 active youth programs going on here in Groundwork Elizabeth right now. One of them is called the Green Team Program, and we engage diverse youth aged 14 to 24, and they work, advocate, and volunteer in our local community. I think behind me is a picture of a riverbank that's being restored. Our Green Team and some of the other groups we're going to be talking about in a second helped actually secure and firm up an eroded riverbank. So we're invested in the environment in many different ways. We have another youth initiative called the Mayor's Youth Council, where we meet with the mayor and talk about issues like air quality, so we can try to get some policies around solutions to our issues as from a youth perspective. And during the last few years, one of our staff, Jackie Park Allbaum, helped establish a youth team directly linked to the Housing Authority. And it's called the HACE HEAT Team, Housing, Environmental, Adventure, and Action Team. And this is the team that's leading the youth efforts with the National Science Foundation program, although the other 2 groups will be included. So what are our deliverables throughout the 1-year program? It's a quick program. It's probably just a pilot program. Hopefully, we're going to keep doing this and finding solutions. What our job at Groundwork Elizabeth is number 1, help recruit the seniors and the youth to go together. Number 2, assist the Rutgers in mapping our neighborhoods. We've done that together with them. Assist in identification of locations for air quality monitors. Number 4, participate in feedback with the community. Number 5, help Rutgers in the development of the data hub for information. Number 6, communicate with residents about our current conditions. Number 7, engage our environmental justice communities in a what-if situation for possible mitigation. And number 8, maybe the most important to me, is support the Housing Authority and Rutgers and our city with a series of informative community meetings. Like I said, all of our youth teams will be part of this. The intergenerational part of the grant is really the glue that holds the community together. Youth are connecting with seniors because of their work on the walks with the air quality monitors to collect the data and engage the community in our mission of getting information out through what we call our Climate Safe Elizabeth Task Force program. This goes hand in hand with the National Science Foundation grant. So we, with HACE and Rutgers, are going to set up meetings outlining our data at 205 First Street and other HACE locations, and we will continue to do this throughout the entire grant. Thank you for your time, and I will be here to answer questions upon request.
You did. Thank you, Jonathan. I want to give Michael a minute to talk if he wants to say anything, and then we'll go to the researchers. Michael, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Mike Buckley. I'm the Director of Operations here at the Housing Authority. And, you know, Kathy pretty much, she did a tremendous job summing up our timeline as far as how the Housing Authority has become invested partners with everybody on this call. I guess the one thing that I would really like to do is just say thank you to both Groundworks and Rutgers. One thing that the Housing Authority has always taken pride in is being able to bridge the gap between our seniors and our youth. We have attacked this from a multitude of social programming, and I think that this particular grant, it gives us another avenue for both our seniors and our youth to not only communicate, but like Jonathan said, the youth are such a crucial part to what we're doing, because moving forward, they're going to be the ones to spearhead, whether it's continuing this grant or whatever other ventures that we look to get into as far as environmental impacts. So thank you to both Jonathan and his team, Getty and Jen, as we continue to involve definitely the youth, but also looking out for the health equity of the seniors.
All right, thank you, Michael. Now I want to introduce our researchers. We are very, very, very lucky to have Dr. Jen Senek. She's the Senior Executive Director of Rutgers Center for Green Building and also the Center for Urban Policy Research. We also have Getty Manelis. Dr. Manelis is Professor of Environmental Sciences at the Rutgers School of Environmental and Biological Sciences. So first we're going to have Getty, and right after Getty we'll have Jen.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for the introduction. So I hope you can see my screen. So my pleasure to be here, and I would like to talk a little bit about some of the technical aspects and some of the data we have captured in this ongoing project, and also some of the earlier projects that we have done with communities here in Elizabeth and also elsewhere. So I think we all understand the importance of indoor air and indoor air quality, because we spend 80 to 90% of our time indoors. And I think nothing underscores the importance of good air quality like these data from WHO that says 23% of global deaths are linked to the environment. And of those, every year in the world, there are 4 million premature deaths due to ambient air pollution, and just about the same number, just about 4 million premature deaths due to indoor air pollution, such as indoor smoke or cooking or from cooking fuels. So if you look at our indoor environments, there is a number of reasons why we are exposed to air pollution. Obviously, some of those air pollutants come from outdoors. Whatever is outside your window is able to get into your home. But also we have a number of combustion sources indoors, be those fireplace, wood-burning stoves, cooking, cigarette smoking, also fumes from the garages, etc. So all of that contributes to the presence of air pollutants indoors. So what can we do as far as research? Well, we can study those reasons for pollution. We can work with communities. We can educate communities. We can disseminate data, because we know about the effects of air pollution. You can clearly see them here. We have short-term effects and long-term effects. And unfortunately, those effects could be serious, including respiratory conditions and also cardiovascular disease. So I'd like to start with some of the partnerships that we had in the past with communities, and just to show you the rich history that Rutgers has of these collaborations. So this is an example of one that was started more than 15 years, about 15 years ago, between Rutgers and WETCO, which is Women's Health and Economic Development Corporation in the Bronx. And after talking to them, we realized the need to investigate indoor air quality in some of their buildings, including two that you see here on the screen. These buildings are designed to house people who have been homeless or lived in temporary housing prior to moving to these buildings. And residents were diversity of African American and Hispanic or Latino residents. The building on the left was 1920s construction, which was then retrofitted for housing these communities. And building 2 on the right, which was newer construction and energy certified, built with low VOC materials. And interestingly enough, it also had a rooftop garden. So we performed a number of investigations of indoor air, also interactions with the residents. And just to give you some highlights of the data or some examples of the data we gathered. So first of all the buildings within the same building or apartments are the same. They have the same materials. But what makes the difference in the presence of pollutants, in this case PM2.5, these tiny particles, is also individual behavior. So these gray bars that you see in the chart, these are pollutant levels within individual apartments. And you can see how different they are. And many of them exceed the guidelines if we compare them at least to outdoor standards. The concentrations we could observe inside could exceed those standards by a factor of 3 or 4 or even higher. So a lot of it, what we have indoors, have to do with our individual behaviors. We also saw that some simple interventions introduced to residents, such as we suggested to them to use mops with microfiber cloth. We saw the reduction in PM2.5 and PM10 concentrations in the apartments where those techniques were adopted. So here in the graph, you see the presence on the left, a lower concentration of particles where people adopted these interventions, and on the right where people were hesitant to adopt these interventions. So the research proceeded in 3 phases. First, we measured the baseline, and then after these interventions, we had second and third phase where we looked at the importance of these interventions, and we did see statistically significant impact. To see if we can actually combine multiple techniques such as the measurements, also and interviews into a more integrative assessment of the building conditions and its possible effect on indoor air quality. So for example, by using these techniques, we observed that in a number of apartments, there was a missing insulation that was detected through infrared technology. You can see here that was Professor Jay Gong from Rutgers Engineering. You can see these purple parts. That's where the insulation was missing in the apartments. And interestingly enough, we found that in the apartments that have missing insulation, and in these graphs, we call it the high group or other group with high missing insulation, the concentration of smallest particles, the ultrafine particles, was higher than in the apartments that did not have this missing insulation. You might ask, is that important? Turns out that even though just within these 20 apartments that we investigated, the apartments that had higher asthma, these were the same apartments, has asthma incidents, these were the same apartments where we detected higher ultrafine particles. These were the same apartments that had missing insulation. Why that insulation was missing? It could have settled after the construction. Maybe it wasn't a poor installation, but we can say that by applying these technologies and different techniques, we can see how that makes a difference in indoor air quality and health. And it was not only about measurements. We distributed manuals for better IQs, how to improve your IQ in the apartments. We provided maps of nearby green spaces, maps of helpful food vendors nearby, and we also had community meetings to discuss our findings. So this resulted in a number of publications that described our efforts and also our challenges throughout this research. And then it led to new and additional and important, interesting interactions, in this case with Hayes and Groundwork Elizabeth. We started with a question: how do summer heat waves affect indoor air quality and vulnerable communities? So this project was also funded by the National Science Foundation. So as Jonathan mentioned, Elizabeth sits in a very interesting place geographically. It's surrounded by major air pollution sources, airport, seaport, major highways. So we wanted to see what happens in summer in indoor air and whether the indoor pollution during summer changes, especially during heat wave days, which would be the days where air temperature was above 90 degrees. So we used low-cost sensors, and we installed these sensors in 24 apartments of low-income housing, especially in seniors' apartments. You can see the picture of one such monitor on the lower right. We also had the outdoor station. We compared these data, and we looked at the effect of heat waves on the indoor air pollution. Just to give you an example of those data, and within this very busy graph, I'll just explain what we are seeing. So first of all, we saw the difference that within every single apartment that we measured, the pollution levels were higher during the heat wave days. These are the pink bars relative to the non-heat wave days, which were the purple bars. In every single apartment, the pollutant levels were higher and statistically significantly higher. In addition, we saw there was a big difference in the apartments that had smokers. We did not even ask whether people smoked indoors. We only asked the question where anybody smoked in the apartment. You can see that the particle levels there were about 100 micrograms per cubic meter, whereas in the apartments that did not have smokers, these levels were about a factor of magnitude lower, in the order of 10 to 20 micrograms per cubic meter. So individual actions are very important, but also environmental conditions are also very important. And in summer, that means not only the heat that creates the stress, but also increased air pollution that creates an additional stress. So we also asked ourselves a question: how can we improve IAQ, indoor air quality? And I think especially the recent COVID pandemic raised awareness of people about IAQ importance, and people are now looking for solutions how to have a simple and inexpensive ways to improve indoor air quality. So with support from New Jersey DEP, we looked into the efficiency of so-called do-it-yourself air cleaners. Do-it-yourself air cleaner is the simple box fan that you can buy from Walmart or a similar store. You combine it with air filters, such as this famous now course, a Rodenthal box with a air mover or this box fan surrounded by 4 filters. And we had a goal to make these that would cost less than $100. The question would be, well, do they work? Do they work well? Well, we did find that if you look at their ability to remove PM2.5, the performance metric, so-called CADR, clean air delivery rate, boxes that have just a single filter, it's about 200 CFM or cubic feet per minute. It jumps up to a 400, which is incredibly good for such an inexpensive and simple device. For comparison, if you look at some of the commercial air cleaners that you buy, such as these, their CADR is in the order of 200 to 300, meaning that our simple solution, a box fan with a few filters, can even outperform the commercial devices. Maybe not, they visually not look as pretty, but their performance is substantial. Not only that, it costs very little to run these air cleaners. For example, if you run it for 12 hours a day, 30 days a week, 30 days a month, then at a cost of electricity, 20 cents per kilowatt hour, it will cost less than a big cup of coffee. So you can buy that improved indoor air quality for just a cup of coffee a month, which I think is an important message. So with that preparation, that led us to this new project that was mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, Smart Kids and Cool Seniors, where we are trying to combine the scientific investigation with community's participation and address data gaps in air quality and thermal comfort in the city of Elizabeth. We will integrate low-cost air quality sensors indoors and outdoors. As Jonathan mentioned, youth with air quality backpacks will accompany seniors and map air quality in the city of Elizabeth, and we'll develop dashboards to provide actionable data about air quality and heat stress information. In addition, we are fortuitous that the Greenworks received the grant from the EPA to install air quality sensor network. So we are treating this project as an enormous and synergistic opportunity that will allow us to combine the goals of the project and work on a more detailed mapping of air quality sensors, data community data hub, and also communication tools. So already in preparation for these projects, and with support from Valley National Bank in summer of 22 and 23, we developed air quality backpack that carries air quality instruments. And then, as was mentioned, participants in the Hayes Heat Youth Camp carry these backpacks throughout the city to map indoor air quality, to measure that air quality, and also to develop protocols for the upcoming grant. Here you can see the example of the data. That's PM2.5 in various locations of the city. And the color of the circles and the size indicates the presence of PM2.5. You might ask yourself what these blobs are, bigger ones. Well, there was a construction going on, and this big one, we actually passed through somebody's barbecue cloud, and obviously the pollution monitors picked up that quite readily. And you can see how it varies location to location and day to day. So this all will be incorporated in the grant as we proceed with it. So right now, the status of the grant is we have boxes of equipment arriving that we are putting together the protocol where they will be installed. You can see the monitors on the left with the stationary monitoring, air visual that will be installed in apartments. We have portable monitors that you saw in the video, the Atmo tubes and similar that will be carried in the backpacks. But none of this would work if we did not have community involvement, because this is a project between community and researchers to achieve the common goal. So the common goal as of now is to install these monitors. You can see the locations where it will be installed. Basically, the city of Elizabeth used to have just one monitor by the EPA at the exit 13. In addition to that, right now we'll have 16 monitors installed throughout the city of Elizabeth. And as I mentioned, we'll combine these with also indoor data and portable backpack data. So our goal is eventually to map the data, to develop interface and community dashboard to display what's going on outdoors and indoors with simple, clearly, easy to understand message that would direct people's actions. This would not be possible without this tremendous support and involvement of our community partners, as I mentioned, initial projects with WETCO, now with Hayes and Groundwork, and our support by HUD, NSF, EPA, New Jersey DEP, and Valley National Bank, also participating students and faculty, and none of this would be possible without community members who have participated or will participate in our studies. So I will stop here, and I don't know, maybe questions. I'll answer questions at the end of this webinar, and this is now for Jennifer to talk more about community engagement projects.
Thank you, Getty. Jen?
Yep, I will share screen as soon as Getty stops.
Yeah, right. Immediately following, if you guys want to start putting your questions in the chat, we will try to answer all your questions.
Okay. I am also very grateful to be here and thank NJCEED, our wonderful partners at HACE and Groundwork Elizabeth, my colleagues, and the participants joining us today. I'm going to skip over some of my slides as they've been covered, but I'll just mention quickly that the concept of healthy homes is very foundational for us. Millions of U.S. home occupants are exposed to moderate or severe health and safety hazards, with vulnerable minority populations disproportionately impacted. Another bit of just quick framing. We do tend to link all the elements you've heard today into sort of theoretical concepts, at least for some of our publications. The social...
Excuse me, Jen, I just want to share with you that your slides are a little bit blocked. Right now, what I'm seeing is give subtitles a try. They're a little bit blocked. So you might want to go into presentation mode.
I was in presentation mode.
Okay, let's find out why that happened then. Maria, can you assist?
Hang on a second. So I was in presentation mode, but let me try again. How is it now?
It's not blocked, but try it again.
Well,
But is it?
we're seeing your following slide, like the presenter view.
But that wasn't true before, right?
It was from the beginning, yeah.
I'm not sure why that's happening.
Jen, maybe if you just show the slide without going into the presenter mode, so we'll see most of the slides and just list of them on the left.
Yeah, now I have like slides all over on both my screens. I'm not sure what to do.
Rob, can you walk
the presenter view and try to do a slideshow?
What do you see now?
We see the slides in your PowerPoint, but not in
do you want to do it, Maria, for her?
And what do you see now?
I can do it for you if you want.
Well, what do you see now?
We still have the first slide, but in presenter mode.
I think you may need to swap monitors.
Yeah,
probably, yes.
I
think you have to present.
You have to present monitors, but I will try.
Share your main monitor.
I'll have to move this over then, because right now you probably don't see it at all, right?
We don't see. There you go.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. The social ecological system framework is something that's very famous from Ostrom, McGinnis, and Ostrom. And what this allows us to do is to have a way to link the relationships between indoor air quality, outdoor air, built environment characteristics, occupant activities. Getty talked quite a bit about how behavior influences indoor air quality as well, and local organizations. You've heard already, I think, a bit about why we're focusing on Elizabeth, so I won't spend much time on that. However, I would like to spend the time we have together giving a little bit more information about some of the activities with youth and seniors that we refer to as translational research activities. They support the grants, and of course, they provide STEM and in many cases, workforce inputs with our collaborators at HACE and Groundwork Elizabeth. And as previously noted, many of these have been supported, at least in part or whole, by Valley National Bank. So in the summer of 2019, we had the opportunity to push into a summer camp that's convened at HACE. This is the community center at Matlock Manor, and to work with 2 different age groups of youth there.
to construct our own indoor air quality sensors using Arduino programming. And so that was an opportunity to introduce Arduino-based coding and a bit of electric engineering here. It was actually pretty tough going, to be honest, but when we did succeed, it was really wonderful, and we had big smiles all around. We also, in that same summer, introduced the US EPA Air Now flag program to HASTE, which to the best of our knowledge was the first and maybe still only the only example of doing so in a public housing setting. This program was originally developed by the US EPA for schools. And indeed, as you saw also in the video, the way this program works is there are different color codes that indicate different levels of air quality, and basically whether you're a sensitive population or not, you could change your actions accordingly that day. We had the youth make daily logs recording which flags were raised. We had the flags raised and changed morning, noon, and evening, as air quality does change throughout the day. And we also had them diary what actions they took in response to learning about what the air quality was during these time periods, whom they spoke to about it, whether they opened or closed windows, etc. And of course, we had provided some inputs about how these actions might be impacted by air quality. That was a very successful program. The kids really liked raising the flags. We wanted to expand it further, and so in the following summer, we expanded to 5 building complexes of the Housing Authority, working with the seniors through a workforce program that HASTE had in place. And so the Air Ambassadors really were our co-creators in this program. They participated in design and decision-making throughout about how to integrate the program into their buildings in a contextually relevant manner. It was also during COVID, and so we needed to include COVID precautions. They also accessed the US EPA Air Now app or website 3 times a day. And you saw a little bit about that in the video we showed initially. They would raise and or change flag colors to correspond to Air Now. They would keep a log. They posted flyers at key points in the buildings and around the campuses. Because they were ambassadors, they answered questions from other residents about the program. And so the flags themselves and the flyers generated questions, which was really, the point, right? They also helped us distribute surveys at the end of the project to those 5 buildings and campuses and provided feedback on improvements to the project. These are some examples of flyers that were posted. In the end, we really felt that knowledge translation was successful in enhancing the use and usefulness of research. This was just sort of some of our main conclusions. There were challenges. There were different tech literacies. There were different languages. We do, by the way, I should mention, always work in both English and Spanish in the city of Elizabeth. So we have researchers who are native Spanish speakers as well. The project provided a lot of embedded value for air ambassadors to connect across building complexes and with their neighbors, sharing information on sources of pollution, local community resources, and other types of strategies. And then in the summer of 2021, picking up where Getty left off, we ran a workshop collaborating with Groundwork Elizabeth and HASTE Heat, the team you heard about that works on environmental advocacy topics. And we built these air purifiers after they had been tested in Getty's lab. Our colleague Jay Gong at engineering also introduced them to the Boston Robo Dog, which went over very well. And during the same time period, we commenced the backpacking project. And then lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this work, which was funded separately by Rutgers, actually, a grant from the Community Design for Health and Wellness Fund, where we sought to contribute a new understanding of the persuasive force of a technology coupled with the collective power of community-driven efforts, focusing on a lot of visualization work. We actually were able to design with another colleague who led this work, Sung Young Kim at the School of Communication and Information, new interfaces for indoor air quality monitors. We did this work at Hayes and with Isles community in Trenton. And so Getty showed you some graphs. They're a little bit technical in nature. They don't necessarily resonate with youth or other members of community. And both as a part of the current project and past work, we take our cues from the community. In this case, we conducted a series of participatory drawing workshops to understand how youth themselves understand good or bad air quality, sources of poor indoor air quality, and then we developed interfaces. These are some of our publications. They're also available on the Center for Urban Policy Research website, as well as additional resources. I saw some folks from Community of Health. I should mention that we've developed a number of guidelines such as these, but also tips manuals in English and Spanish through an earlier grant that I led from the CDCs, and those are all available, obviously, for free on our website. And with that, I will stop sharing and try to come back to you all.
Okay, it does look like we had a question, and it was submitted by Michael Gotchfeld, and his question was, how big or how small is a microforest? And it looks like it was already answered by Kathy Hart. It can be as small as a parking space. Does anybody else want to talk a little bit about microforests?
Yeah, I'd be happy to bring it up. It's something that Groundwork Elizabeth is very dedicated to. Microforests are important in urban communities for cleaning the air. Actually, they're demonstration projects because they're in a small area, as Kathy mentioned on her answer to Michael. They could be as small as a parking space or two, but they do demonstrate the fact that you can, in an urban environment, still cool it with trees. Trees are meant to be planted in a dense sort of way. We have two housing authority projects right now. You may put in 2 parking spaces as many as 200 plants. So they absorb the water, they sequester carbon, they work on the heat island, and they're great for starting conversations about how in urban communities we should try to repair our environment.
Excellent. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm looking at the chat right now. It's getting around noon, so we do want to honor everybody who gave us an hour. So it looks like we do have time for, here's one. Was the STEM program evaluated using qualitative method based on a research question? If so, can someone elaborate?
Is that referring to the slides that I showed?
Yes.
Summer programming. Yes, we did test baseline knowledge of the youth prior to the educational inputs, and then return to that question after the educational inputs. The results were a little surprising. There seemed to be some gain in knowledge and some loss. So we're not super confident in those data. But we also conducted a number of interviews of camp staff and others who were involved kind of towards process improvements, because as you can see, we've done this for many, many summers in a row. We have a publication underway actually looking at collectively these K-12 STEM programs that combines the qualitative evaluation that we perform therein with some quantitative data, as of course there's also been data collection during that time. So in other words, the students were putting up the different flag colors, but we also were monitoring our air quality ourselves at these sites. And so it's really going to be a mixed method type of publication.
Okay, I have one more question for you. What were the general findings on how the kids conceptualized the air pollution from the drawing session?
Yeah, it was really fascinating. Thanks for that question. Dirty air meant to many like things on the floor, like a messy apartment. Although some kids drew pictures of mold, predominantly in the bathrooms. Some drew like lots of dishes in a sink in a kitchen. In terms of dirty air outside, many drew like very kind of gray or black backgrounds. And so, yeah, that was interesting. By the way, we tested many, many different visualizations on them from what we thought we learned from them to see what would work best for the interface for the air quality sensors. And in the end, they really liked kind of an animated cat with different messages about both what the current conditions were, but then also suggestions to take to alleviate those conditions, at least in indoor environments.
So it looks
Just
like
if I may to add to this, that for many kids, a concept of bad air was also associated with bad smell, bad odor. So when we talked to them how they would describe that air, they said they smells bad.
Thank you, Getty. Yeah, that's an important one.
Okay, we have Jonathan has offered anybody who wants to reach out to him or to Kathy at Hayes to talk more about microforests. That's an open invitation. Nikki Baker is basically telling everybody that the amazing work that you're doing with youth, that she wants to give you a shout out. Jerry Flack is talking about excellent report out. Keep up the great work, co-creators. Okay. It looks like our time is up. Please stay. We know we're going to be doing indoor air with Derek Shundell and schools with Nikki Baker. That's coming up on May 1st. But keep involved. If everybody could mark their calendars for October 18th, which is going to be our major new Environmental Health and Justice Summit. That'll happen October 18th. Save the date. It's going to be on microplastics. Please get in touch with Rob and I if you want to be involved in the planning of that. We want to do a lot with that this year. We've done a lot with indoor air, and again, we incredibly thank the folks that spoke today. I'm going to pass it over to Rob to have the last word, and also to thank our presenters. But thank everybody for coming also.
Yeah, really a really impressive series of work. I think really showing increasing engagement along the way and developing these strong partnerships with the HACE and other community partners that you've worked with, Groundwork Elizabeth, all working together. And I think it's really impressive. And I looking forward to seeing more and with this new project and finding ways to sustain that over time. So again, thanks very much for sharing that with us, and take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
I
you.
should mention people can follow up with us as well if they would like to do so. We're not that hard to find.
We'll send everybody everybody's email as well as a video of today's presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.